preparing to live stream. Wish I could get fancy like Dan does. He puts a little intro music in there. I'm trying to get it done. Live stream. Okay, let me now share it. Facebook. Fancy like Dan does. And intro music in there. I'm trying to get it done. I got to get the sound turned off here. Can't do that yet. Let me now share it. Facebook. Okay, take a look on my personal page and see if it's there now. And hopefully it is.
It is there.
Okay, now you can share it from there to wherever you want to share it. Everybody's hearing the instructions we're giving out and seeing what we're seeing. Let me get this set up so it has our little intro thing on the first page. While we're doing this, if nobody will will use their microphone so we can get this going here. And apologize for, let's see. There we go. And in a minute, I guess it'll change over to the live one, what I got going here. There we go. Okay. Hello, Facebook. Hello, YouTube. We're here. We thank you so much for being with us this morning. This is Pesach Sherbo live from Sfat, Israel. And it is 5 o'clock in the morning here, 10 o'clock on East Coast, USA and Canada. And this is our regular Sunday evening meeting. And we thank you for being here. You can watch it on Facebook. You can watch it on YouTube. If you go into YouTube, the chat room is open there. And Scotty is going to be watching it. And or you can come into Zoom room, which is highly recommended. You can be interactive with us here in the Zoom room meeting. So we appreciate it. Let me get everybody. And we got to watch the people coming in and everything. So hopefully we'll get this all done and under control, which is the two of us here doing all this work. And welcome. And here I am live now on the camera. And we thank you again so much for being with us. This is Pesach Sherbo. Like I said before, Scotty Helton's here, our co-host. We appreciate him being here very much. In the room right now is Cole Younger, Karen Ori, and James Bakunis. And we thank you for being with us. And if you have anything you want to say or everything, where's Thomas? Don't see him in the room. Maybe he got kicked out like last time. Maybe he had a little problem or something. Anyway, if you want to say something, if you're in the Zoom room, just down at the bottom of the page, if you go along, it says, there's a thing that says reactions there. No, not reactions. Where does it say it? How do you raise your hand? How does somebody raise their hand? I don't know how to do it. Scotty, let me make you co-host. I didn't do that yet.
Okay, if somebody wants to raise their hand, they can just bring up the participants, and you can go up there and raise it, or you can go by your name and 3 little dots, click on it, and it will have a place there to raise your hand.
Oh, okay. I guess I don't have it.
Yeah, you're in speaker view.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, oh yeah, you mean if they go by, oh, I see, where you put it right where their picture is or their name is there.
Yeah.
Okay.
3 little dots, click on it. And
yeah. And they can just raise their hand. Okay. Very good. We're going to start off tonight talking about the Brit Olam prayer book, which is this prayer book. And it's a good prayer book to have. There's others, but this was one. This is a good one. I think all of them are good. Any prayer book is good, but I like this one. There's Angelica. Hello, hello. By the way, it reminded me, Shira says hi to everybody. She's with her 14 grandkids down in Texas, having a ball. Prayer book. So she is enjoying her stay there. And I'm glad, I'm so happy for her. And I'm happy she's there with her kids and grandkids. The kids, of course, hey, Grandma, here's a few more kids to take care of for a little while. And fortunately, her son, Brad, has a huge, huge house. And so there's plenty of room for everybody to play. And he's got a nice yard. He's got a swimming pool in it, and a little, some other play equipment for kids. So it's a good children-friendly house that he's got there. Okay, YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, we're going to try to watch that. And Scotty is going to.
Devora is watching on YouTube.
Is that Scruffy Scrubs? Oh, there we go. I see Scruffy Scrubs Devora here. I never saw it anyway for you before. Okay, well, this is a joyful time of year. We just love Hanukkah. Lots of good food, fried food especially. Good food and good company and a little bit of partying. And it's a joyful time of year. So everybody goes around kind of in a good mood for 8 days. Better mood than usual, actually. Yeah. Okay, Devora, good to see you. Anyway, if you have a Brit Olam prayer book, if you go to page 166, and what we're trying to do now is go through this prayer book and help people learn the prayer book. It's important to learn it. And when you open a table of contents, the second item down is complete Siddur. That means Siddur is a word that means order, is what it means. So it's the complete order of prayers for for everything. So that's what it's called. And where you see it says to the reader, this is abridged prayers for the nations. And I'm going to cover those at one point, but not right now. Complete Siddur, that's your morning Siddur. Now, if you look at that, it says morning prayer, then it says upon arising, and Asher Shiatzar, that's we're blessing God for creating us the way he created us. Then morning blessings. When you first get up in the morning, that's a good time to do those prayers. Every morning when you get up, there's more or less personal prayers that everybody should say every morning. If you don't say any other prayers, say those. Then it says morning prayers. Morning prayers, the recital of the Shema, Shema Yisrael, the Amidah, and conclusion of morning prayer. That is the complete prayer service that's said in the synagogue. Starting with on page 30. The important prayer here is Amidah prayer, page 39. That's what we call actual prayer. Everything else is kind of a prelude to the prayer. You have the Shema Yisrael, which is a declaration to God of who you are and who he's going to be when we all get together and as a world and worship him. And the Amidah prayer, which is the actual prayer. And then conclusion of the morning prayer service. Then we have an afternoon prayer service and evening prayer service. But right now I want to go to the Hanukkah because it's something that we're doing every day right now when we light the candles. Let me just state that candles are always lit from right to left. Like you read Hebrew. It doesn't, not from left to right like you read English. So when you set up the menorah, you should have 8 candles. And you should have a 9th candle that's a little bit higher up. However you design your menorah, however you want to do it, should be a little up higher up than the others. It's called the shamash, and it's the one that watches over, it's the guard. It's the one we light first and use it to light all the other candles. From that main one comes all the other lights, because all our lights come from one place. We don't get light from any other place but from Hashem. All of us have that light in us. And when we light that candle and then share it amongst the 8 nights, then we're taking the light that God gives us and we're putting it onto the candles, and then we put it on public display. We try to anyway. We put it in our windows of our homes. We put it out in front of the homes. We have these special little cabinets that they're put on, and people put chairs or stools out in front of their front door and put the candles on it. So everybody that walks by sees it. Friday night, I walked up to about 1.5 kilometers up the hill to get my Friday night evening meal, because sure is away, with some friends. And boy, did I enjoy the walk. Everywhere you went, you saw the menorah, or Hanukkah, it's called, with the 8 branches, the 9 actually. A menorah is the 6 branch candle with the 1 above, or 7. And that's used in the temple service. And the Hanukkah is specific and only for Hanukkah. And we light it, we put it out in the windows after dark, so the whole world sees the light coming from God, and it's a light that will flow over everybody one day. So it's a light of hope that we're putting out there, and that's why we do it, not to make our houses pretty or anything else, simply to make people aware that God is present in the world, and one day his light will shine over everybody day and night. Where we see it right now, it shines, but we're kind of cut off from it. That's a whole different teaching. Okay. It says, the Hanukkah blessings, the very first one. Blessed are you, Hashem, our God, King of the universe, who has kept us alive and sustained us and brought us to this moment, is only said on the first night when you light it. All the rest, we start at the word we. We light these candles over the miracles, the salvations, and the wonders that you perform for Israel through your holy Kohanim. And during all the 8 days of Hanukkah, these lights are holy, and we are not allowed to use them for any purpose but to gaze upon them in order to give thanks to your name for your miracles, your wonders, and your salvation. Mighty rock of my deliverance, to praise you is so pleasant. Rebuild my house of prayer. We will bring a thanksgiving offering when you have brought about the eradication of the blasphemous enemy. Then I will finish singing the song over the inauguration of the altar. And you read that, you read it every night, except for that first line. The first line, blessed are you, Hashem, our God and King of the universe, who has kept us alive, sustained us, and brought us to this moment, is only said when you're doing something for the first time. Each year when you light the menorah, you say it, because he brought us to this time to do it, Hanukkah. We don't say it every night. It's a general for the time. We say it a lot during the year. We also say it when we see the first flowers blooming, and then there's a blessing we say over the first blooms. And here in Israel, it's the olive tree. It's always not the olive tree, the almond tree. It's always the almond tree. Boy, as soon as we see those buds coming up, we know spring is here. And it's the very first thing that buds and flowers in Israel. And you guys have all read about it in the Tanakh, about how it is. And if you hear lightning or thunder, hear thunder or see lightning, there's blessings to say all these kinds of things. But for Hanukkah, that's what you do. So you don't have to. Now, you can add your own personal thoughts and prayers. Anytime you pray, you can add anything you want. Or you can just be sitting alone, walking down the street, on a bus, on a train, in a car. When I used to travel in America and give lessons at different places in America, and I had to spend most of the night driving between place to place to get to places on time to speak, I would spend that time in the car, radio off, in a discussion with God. And I have what I have called discussions, and I have what I call prayer. Discussions are simply talking to God, like I was talking to my best friend, or like I'm talking to you guys right now on the program. And then I would have prayer times in the car. You don't have to pray with your eyes scrunched closed and all of that. Um, you can pray with your eyes open. You can direct your prayer to Him. If you see guys praying in the synagogue, in the shul, in Hebrew we call it Bet Knesset, the house of coming together. You'll see everybody's eyes wide open except one time. When we say the Shema, we close our eyes and we cover our hands. Our hand covers our eyes just for the first two sentences of the Shema, and then we do everything eyes wide open and awake with as full intent as we possibly can. And so get familiar with the prayer book, read it through once, and use it. And I suggest, when you wake up in the morning, it's really good every single day, before you start your daily tasks, before you do anything else, make sure to do the prayers. Where it says in the prayer book, under complete Siddur, upon arising, then Asher Yatzar, and morning blessings. When I put my water on for coffee, that's when I go and do that. While the water's boiling, I take care of doing my morning prayers in the morning. It takes us a little bit longer because we have a lot more to read than what's in this prayer book. But then it's done for the day. I've made my connection. I've renewed my connection, my mental connection with God. You see, we go to sleep at night. It's kind of, when we go to sleep at night, what happens is the God part of our soul actually leaves our body. It goes to God. It gets a break from the fleshly life. We're left sleeping with our, it's called the nephesh, that part of the soul. And it's actually the part of the soul that keeps alive everything. And it has the power to think and dream. But most of our dreams happen while the godly part of us leaves, and it's refreshing itself in God's presence. And we are left with that. And how do we know that happens? Think about some of the dreams you've had. I mean, some pretty goofy stuff happens in dreams. You're walking down the street and you look up and all of a sudden you're in another town, or you're out there with just your bathrobe on. I mean, some goofy stuff happens in dreams, even at a point of, and this was a point that's used in the Gemara text, and you can see an elephant go through the eye of a needle. And it's been changed, of course, to the camel and other places, but that can't happen in real life. So illogical stuff happens. Illogical stuff happens in our heads, in our dreams. And why? Because the godly part of us that goes away takes that part of the brain with it, kind of. I know it sounds funny, but it's a break for that part of our brain. Is a break for the neshama, the godly part of us, to go be with God for the night, for that time, and then He allows it to come back to us, and that's what we thank Him for every morning, first thing, that He's allowed it to return to us when we get out of bed in the morning. God is very active in our lives, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. When we sleep, when we're awake, he's always there. He's not. And the great thing about God is he doesn't tell me, oh, wait a minute, I'm busy, take a number, call me back. Can't talk to you right now. Can't deal with your neshama right now. I'm dealing, and I don't know, here in Israel, I don't know if they do it in America anymore. When you get on hold at one of the companies, oh, there's 18 people in front of you and the average wait time is 3 minutes. Now, they put it in a, they're not going to take care of 18 people in 3 minutes. So I take the 3 multiplied by 18 and it's whoops, it's 54 minutes before I'm going to be talking to anybody. So I just put it on hold and set it on the side and let the music play and know that I'm going to be waiting for about an hour to be able to talk to somebody. Many times I'm surprised that it's quicker, but that's about the way it is. God doesn't do that to us ever, ever, ever. He's right there with us all the time. He knows your every thought. He knows what you're thinking. Before you think it, he knows it. When you're praying, he's already knows what you're praying about. He knows everything about us. There's nothing we can hide from him. But what he wants you to do is to pray to him even if you need a button. He wants that contact. He wants to interact with us. I mean, he didn't form everything he formed just to say, okay, you guys go have your fun, and when you're finished playing, I'll talk to you later. Or he doesn't walk away from us. A lot of religions are based on that, but he's always, always with us. And so if you keep and I'm guilty as anybody else. Your parents love you. You leave the house, and there's all the jokes about the mother saying, when are you going to call me? Pick up the phone, call me, talk to me. Well, we've done it to our parents. Every one of us have done it to our parents. But to God, we don't want to do it. And if you're a parent now and you have kids that are away from home, you don't hear from them for 2 or 3 weeks, how do you feel? Just think, and God's got every human being doing the same thing to him, So just think about that. A lot of people think they're connecting with God, but they're connecting in the wrong place. But some come true. That is true. That you get, I don't know how to say it. In writing, they call it foreshadowing. When you're reading a book and you put some incidents together and you know what's going to happen next, and the writer gives you a little hint of what's going to happen next, get your thinking going in a certain direction. Most writers use it as a good tool. Others use it as a suspense tool. It's called foreshadowing, and he lets us know when he wants what's happening, what's going to happen. I've heard so many people, those of you that were around for 9/11, that I heard many people tell me, I just knew something was going to happen that day, or 2 weeks before I had a dream that, when I see this happen, I know it connects to the dream I had. Nothing big happens without God letting some people know. Now, that doesn't make those people prophets. It doesn't make them something special other than they listened, because I think he kind of broadcasts to everybody, not we're all that used to receiving it. He doesn't do anything with sleight of hand or tricks or anything like that. People know what's coming. We know what's coming, and he's laid out in the 5 books of Moses and in the prophets and in the writings, including the Psalms. He's laid out what's going to happen for the whole history of the human beings in this fleshly life. He's also told us it's temporary. We're going on to a better life. But in the meantime, you will still have some dreams come true. You will have hints of things that are going to happen in your life. And sometimes what I love is when you pray and you see almost an immediate answer. I love that. It doesn't happen a whole lot, but it sure makes you feel good when it happens. So make sure you pray. If you don't do some people don't like rote prayer, like it's written in the book. You know what? I didn't either for years. I can say what's on my heart. I can tell God what I want. I can tell God how I feel, and I can. And He listens. But these prayers that are put together over thousands of years, it's not only for God, it's for us. The sages and the Tanaim and the people that wrote it, the Rishonim, the first ones and the later ones, and it made changes to some of the prayers. The reasons they're there is for us to help us connect, and we don't have to sit there and think what we're going to say. There's a whole section where we praise God before we get into the prayers. There's a section where we do blessings, and there's a section of the actual prayer. And it helps lift us up to a height if we just concentrate and do it with intention. And when you're finished, you have a better feeling than when you started. And the words, people think, oh my goodness, Mary had a little lamb, and I'm just reciting what was somebody else said. It doesn't mean something. But let me tell you, when you pray those words to God, He only hears you. He doesn't hear anybody else, not anybody that was first created, who has been created before, or not even Moses or an Abraham or an Isaac or Jacob. He hears you. When you read the Psalms, we read the Psalms every day. And when I read them, He doesn't hear David's words. He says, oh, that's Pesach again. See, because when I read to Him, what's in my heart, how I feel in my heart comes through those words to Him. And I don't have to think about what I'm going to say. David's words are so beautiful. And God loved David more than than anybody else. Supposedly he was the favorite, like Joseph was for Jacob. And the love there that David had for God and God had for him is all in those prayers and in the Psalms. And I couldn't express myself any more beautifully than David does. So I don't have to worry about how beautifully am I expressing myself. I'll read the Psalms and God hears it in my heart and in my voice. So I know some people are against that kind of praying, but I was too for many, many years until I realized. And then until I started praying what we call kavanah, intention, full intention, that every word that we pray goes out to God in a proper fashion, the way we want it to feel, the way we want it to be. So it's important for all of you to remember that. It's a good habit to get into, the praying and connecting with God. It makes me feel good when I do it. And if I don't do it, I feel like I missed something for the day. I don't feel so good. So anyway, if you don't have this book, you can get it on, I always don't know how to turn it. Oh, there we go. This book can be bought at Amazon. It can be bought from Noahide World Center. I think it's maybe on Seattle Noahide's links there, and it's on Arizona Noahide links, and it's on my links. It's a good book to have. The other book, Brit Shalom, also is a good book, and we're going to start going through that in the next couple of weeks. Also, on a separate lesson, maybe not on the same time we're doing this lesson. So first off, anybody have anything they want to say about the prayers? Go ahead, Scotty.
I just want to ask you to give, not that you've not already clarified, but I just want to present it as a question.
Okay.
A lot of people, I've got 3 different B'nai Noach prayer books, and they are all basically the same. I do love the Brit Alone because it gives better, for me, explanation. I'm not putting the others down. I'm just saying that gives better for me because I'm connected with Brit Alone. But in the prayers that are written down, they're really not forcing it upon anybody. It's not a have to for anybody. But if you desire to do it, it's helping you so you won't do it improperly. Are we looking at that correctly?
Yeah, I don't think any prayers are improper. Okay,
Well,
that's
I,
not.
I meant not to do it like the Jewish prayer.
Oh, okay. If you have a Jewish prayer book, you shouldn't use it. I mean, you can read it, make yourself knowledgeable in it, but it's written for the Jews to because there are very specific words in there that hook us together as with God the way like the words that brought us out of the house of Egypt. Well, the Jews he brought out of the house of Egypt. Not everybody else did he do that. So it's whoops. I should be getting up for a morning prayer time now. 2 days a week, I do it later. Anyway, yes, that's true. When you say improper, if you mean by that, yes, you want to make sure that you're praying the proper prayer. Yes, and that's why not using the Jewish prayer book, but using the one of the. I haven't looked at all the ones for B'nai Noach. I'm sure they're all good because they're all based on they're based on the Jewish prayer book, and they've been edited out so that the things that the Jews are supposed to say are not in your prayer book, and it's easier that way. And the difference in size of the prayer books are unbelievable. I mean, we go to morning prayer. The first prayers we do take about half an hour, 45 minutes before we leave the house. We get to the shul. We're there for 2 hours every morning, praying and praising God, and then praying and reading Psalms and doing all these things. But we're required to do that. It's a requirement for us. It's not for you. You don't have to pray every day if you don't want to. This is totally up to you and how you decide you want to run your life. Also, the same thing with studying, by the way. There's no requirement for you to study every day. I know that those coming out of Protestantism and Catholicism, they're used to studying because that's what you did. And so you have a thirst there. It's like a thirst that you would like it to be quenched. It's a desire, and you can do that. Um, I know a lot of B'nai Noach read Rambam and they read Zohar and they read the Talmud. Um, even a Jew doesn't read all of those unless he has a guide through it. These are not things you should be reading by yourself, because what happens is your mind is going to interpret what the knowledge your mind has, and lots of times it's wrong the interpretation you may get. Even the Jews, we do not study those alone. We have to have one person at least with us that should be a little more knowledgeable than us, or we go to classes. But it's not for self-study. It wasn't made to be a self-study book. It was made to be guided through. Now, why do we say that? Let's take just the Rambam. What we're getting from Rambam, it's not just a book that he wrote. It's a journey through his mind. It's like we're immersing ourselves in his thoughts, in his mind, and we're walking. It's like walking through an uncharted territory, like the discoverers in America would trailblaze and go out. Sometimes they take a wrong turn. Sometimes they get in trouble. This is what happens when you go someplace without a guide. So you really need to have a guide help you with this. It's nice that the classes online are great. All the ones that are on for the sayings of the fathers and all the other classes. But if you can get some help through a one-on-one from a teacher, or put a small group together so you have some individual back and forth with the teacher during the meeting time. I'm going to say most, not all of the teachings you watch that are from, like Jerusalem Online or Torah for All and things like that, most of them generally are done in front of some kind of group of people, and you'll hear people ask questions in the background and things like that. So that's a learning environment. So, I mean, maybe you enjoy reading alone, read, but it could be that your walk through that book may not be, you may not get the full benefit of your walk through that book. Let me put it that to you that way. The same when you don't use the pre-written prayers, you might get lost in your, it's a funny thing, and most people will admit this, that when you sit down to pray, and as soon as you start praying, your mind, all of a sudden, you get wanderings in your mind. All of a sudden, you're thinking about the kids' lunch, a bill that didn't get paid, something you got to do today, just pops in your head. And so you get some interference in your prayer. And of course, that's what we call the other side, and it's trying to keep you from praying, but it's a part of you. But if you use the book, and you focus on the words, and you give intention to each word spoken, it helps those things be locked out. What happens is, and I find it for myself, when I go to morning prayer and I start, I'm so familiar with the prayers, I could probably do it without the book, but I concentrate on the book, because if I don't, and I just start saying the words, that part of my brain is saying the words, and the other part of my brain is over here lining up what I'm going to do today. It's natural for us. It just happens. So for me, using the book is a protection, that I stay focused on where I'm supposed to be and focus on each word. It's a great help to me personally. And other guys told me they do the same thing, and it's a help to them. The Rebbe, the Bavitcher Rebbe, teaches that you never pray from memory. You always read the book. Your eyes are always in the book focusing, because it keeps you focused when you pray. When I walk out of the morning prayer, shacharit, we call it, or that's morning prayers or sunrising prayers, I know if I had a good prayer time or not. And sometimes if I have something disturbing I'm thinking about, I went to sleep at night or something's going on, I got to get solved, my prayer time doesn't seem to be as good as it is when I can empty everything out of my head and just pray. And I had a reminder of that about 2 weeks ago when our boiler blew up on the roof before I went to morning prayers. And I knew I had to rush home. I had to call the repair people. I had to come. And I was also thinking about all the money it was going to cost, which is quite a lot of money. And so my whole prayer time was disturbed. When I came out of prayer time, I didn't feel more relaxed. I didn't get that little high I get from praying most of the time. So I just resolved that no matter what, I'm just not going to let that happen again. And I'm going to try really hard for it not to happen again, because I don't like it when it happens. By the way, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. We had over $1,000 unexpected expenses, and we appreciate those that sent a little along to help us cover them. It was a great, great help. Some of the money also went to buy Hanukkah candies and things for the kids, because it's Hanukkah time. So we really appreciate your helping us out that way. Anybody that would like to help, just go for TorahNations.org, hit the donations page. It's PayPal. It's good. It's private. It's secure. And any little bit helps. From $1 on, it helps. Believe me, it does. And we thank you for that. We don't talk much about it, but this $1,000 expense is pretty heavy on us right now. So if anybody could help with that, it'd be appreciated too. No obligation on anybody's part, and that's it, done with that. Anyway, prayer is a very important thing to do. And when we read through the 5 books of Moses, we find that prayer enters in a lot to the prayer. I mean, Isaac and Rebekah, until the point where they prayed opposite each other, is what it says in the story about when they prayed together, and she got pregnant, and She didn't get pregnant until they did that. And Hannah, who a lot of our prayers are based on, when she went to pray at the tabernacle in Shiloh, or Shiloh in Hebrew, she went and prayed a prayer because her husband had two wives and the other one was having all these kids, and she was being constantly called out on it and made fun of. And she went to the tabernacle and stood outside in the courtyard and prayed. And it's noticeable she was praying out loud, but not so the person, if someone else could hear what she was saying. And the high priest, the Cohen, Eli, thought that she was drunk because he'd never seen anybody do that before. And he says, go away, drunk woman, go someplace else and do this. And she looked at him and said, no, I'm not drunk. I'm talking to God. And I'm presenting my case before God. And she talked about wanting a child. And Ellie didn't know, but God knew. That she told God, just give me a boy child. I'll keep him till he's weaned, and then he'll go to your service the rest of his life. And so Ellie says, okay, I'll give you a blessing for a child. Now, this guy, Ellie, was not the greatest Cohen high priest. You can read about him. But the very fact was that year she had a son. The son's name was Samuel, who then came to be an attendant for Ellie in the Shiloh temple, Shiloh tabernacle. If you ever get to Israel, you got to go visit the place. They do such a beautiful virtual. They found ruins of it and ruins of the town, and you're looking out this huge picture window that shows you the ruins of the town. But on the window, they actually project the buildings that were there right onto the ruins. So it's really cool. It's like you're right there in it, and it's a lot. They're starting to do it in a lot of places now in Israel. It's really, really a cool thing. Anyway, prayer. A lot of prayers that we use are based on her formula for prayer. Matter of fact, every Christian prayer is based on her formula for prayer. You praise God, you thank him, you ask him for something, you bless him, and you leave the prayer. Essentially, that's what it is. And a lot of the prayers you read in the Siddur, in the Brit Olam, and in the Jewish Siddur are based on the same thing. I was talking to somebody else today in a little home group I do in Austria on Sundays. And everything that we do is based on almost everything is based on what women showed us to do in the Tanakh. I mean, it starts with, we see it with Abraham and Sarah and Hagar, and she says, tell Hagar to go, and Abraham says no, then God tells her, listen to your wife. The women are a very powerful part of our nation. And this is one big thing that other religions got wrong. They think that God is telling the men to rule over women. And that's not what he tells us. And I know I've shifted subject, but I got to get it in since it came up. God, we see time and time again in the Torah that women have a stronger and better connection with God than men do, but everybody has their place in the Torah. How do we know this? Well, if we go back to Mount Sinai, God tells Moses who to share his teachings with and how to do it. First, he was to go to the 70 elders and share the teachings there. Then he was to go to the house of Jacob and share the teachings, and then go to Bnei Israel, or the sons of Israel, and give the teachings. So the 70 elders are the same ones that went up from the tribes and and had the meal with God and went up on the mountain. The house of Jacob are the women. There's a very specific reason why they're called house of Jacob. They build the house of Jacob. It's up to them to take care. We build it, they take care of it inside, the spirituality, the connections with God, everything. So the women got first the Torah before the sons, the males of Israel got it. And that was the teaching order. And until today, it stands that way. The wife in the relationship takes care of the inside of the house. The man takes care of the outside, keeping the house repaired and order, clean on the outside, painted on the inside if it's needed, guarding it, protecting it, and bringing home the food. That's the man's job. The woman's job, which when I used to travel amongst the Christians, they would say, well, I'm just a housewife. I'm just a housewife. That is the most demeaning way of saying what the role that God gave them that I've ever heard. And I would tell them that right in the meeting. I said, you were given the most important job on this planet by God, and you're saying it's just a job? And they'd all look at me and say, what are you talking about? And I said, you bring up the next generation. You're the one that up until the age where they step out to go to school to learn, you're in charge of what they learn and how they react to things and how they learn from you. And also, you're in charge of the house, the spiritual nature of the house, the cleanliness of the house, preparing the food, and you're in charge of whatever color you want the walls and however you want the furniture. You're in charge of all of that. So that anybody that walks into the house, friend, husband, children, they feel like they've walked into a warm hug when they come in your front door. When people come into your home, they should actually feel that they've come into that hug. It's a very personal thing. And Shira is amazing. Every time somebody comes into our place, it's the first time they've been in here. Oh, it feels so homey. It's so cozy. And the women are complimenting her on how it makes them feel when they come in the door. The man has to feel that too. The kids have to feel that too. Visitors have to feel. That's a big job. Because if the house doesn't feel that way and it feels bitter or it has no taste at all, it doesn't help people grow spiritually who they are. Being a woman in the world is a tough thing. But being a man is a tough thing too. We got our own responsibilities. But that's why the women don't work at the temple, at the holy temple. That's why the men do all that work. The women are taking care of the most very basic, important thing about life itself in the continuation of walking with God. And it's a huge responsibility. So don't ever think to yourself, I'm just a housewife, you know. Shira works sometimes, and that's okay. But the house always feels like it does. Now, when I was raising children, and Hannah, may her memory be blessed, we made a deal about she wanted to work, and I said, that's fine, but here's the way we're going to do it. You don't work while the kids are still at home. When they start going to school, you can work, but only after they leave for school in the morning, and please be home by the time they get back in the evening or the afternoon. So they're never home alone. You're always there to welcome them, and you're fulfilling what. And this is before I was frum, before I'd come hazarti b'tshuva, before I came back to walk with God the way I'm doing. This is the way we raised our kids the whole time. Thank you, God, for allowing us to do that. Because I was out working and doing what I was supposed to do to bring as much money as I could home to keep the family afloat and provide for whatever anybody wanted. And that's what you guys do. So this is I know it's a digression, but the women are certainly very important. They're important. And if a woman does the prayer, don't do it in secret. If you're going to do the prayers, go sit in your sitting room, go sit somewhere, pray, and do not pray to yourself. No, not man or woman. When you walk into a house of prayer here in Israel, you hear like a little buzz, like a hum. Everybody's pronouncing the words of the prayer except the Amidah itself. There you form the words with your lips, but you don't let your voice come out. Everywhere else, you say it at least so you can hear it. Men and women. And women, when you're at home and you're praying, and I know that women have a tendency to do this more than guys do, and you're praying and you're up, don't wait till after your husband leaves the house if you don't need to. Don't do it in private. Do it right out in front of him, and hopefully he'll join with you in the mornings to do it. Do it together. It's part of divuk. It's part of your coming together as one soul, a husband and wife. It's part of that glued together type thing. Now, the Jewish women, God doesn't obligate them to prayer times, except on Shabbat, the lighting of the Shabbos candles. And there may be one or two other times, but a woman isn't bound by a clock to God. Up, sun up, I got to go pray. God tells women, you pray when you can. First thing you need to do, take care of the kids, take care of the elderly, take care of the sick, take care of your husband, and then come and pray to me. This is part of being a housewife. The most important job in the world. Making sure that your husband is in the right frame of mind to pray, your kids are in the right frame of mind when they leave the house. You're helping build them up into better people. And it's a hard job. But if you can pray when they're around before they leave the house in the morning or whatever, and they see you pray, they might want to make time in their morning to join you for that 15 or 20 minutes for prayer before they go to school, before they go to work, and things like that. It's so important for you women to understand that, how important you are. God never meant you to be servants or submissive. Now, since I said that, I got to explain one more thing, and then we'll open the mic up for anybody who wants to do it. In any reunion, partnership, there has to be a partner who gets to make the final decision in cases where you're discussing something and make a decision, and one thinks this way and one thinks that way. God made the male the one that makes the final decision, not on what color the house is, not on where the furniture is, not on what you're going to eat for dinner. That's the wife's job. But major decisions, we're going to move, we're going to buy a new place. The big decisions are how we're going to take a trip or how we're going to do things as a routine in the home. The wife has a bigger say than the man does. But here's the thing. When you sit down and discuss things, and you know what I'm talking about, and a lot of the discussions are about money, the wife might say A, B, C, and the husband says X, Y, Z. And they discuss it, not argue, discuss it. In the end, someone has to be able to make the decision what to do. And that was generally given to the husband. And then God gave women some words to use if it didn't work out. And it's, I told you so. But you know what? If the man decides to go for the women's idea, he can say the same thing to the woman if it doesn't work out. But that's the way it works. But someone has to be able to make a decision without arguing about it. And both the man and the woman have to take the decision without feeling bad about the decision that's made. You went left and you didn't go right, or something like that. So the woman is not a submissive, seen but not heard. Never. And we don't teach that. And the Torah doesn't teach that. And God doesn't teach that. God doesn't teach that women are the servants of the men. Ever. Nowhere does it say that. It may appear that way sometimes because men and women walk separately and they pray separately and things like that. But there are other reasons for that. It has nothing to do with, it has to do with modesty, and it has to do with attention on what you're doing and things. So it has nothing to do with why isn't my food on the table when I get home from work? It has nothing to do with that. Now I'm just quoting lines I heard from movies, so I don't. But the important thing is when we come together, a man and a wife, they have a relationship together, and God knows it, that they are, in the Hebrew word is glued. They're glued together as one, like with super glue. It's also the same relationship each one of us have with God. That's how close we're supposed to feel to God, like we're super glued to him. And that's how it is as a husband and wife, the way it's supposed to be. Now, there's little caveats here. There's little things that, a wife doesn't want a husband doing something in particular, and the husband, I'm not talking about alcohol, I'm not talking about drugs, I'm not talking about gambling, I'm not talking about being abusive, but there may be other things, like he drinks a lot of Coca-Cola, okay? And the wife says, why are you drinking all that Coca-Cola? It's bad for you, too much sugar, no more Coke in the house, things like that. There's no reason to do something like that. You may think it's a good reason, but there isn't. It just brings tension. And there are some other things I can think of, which I'm not going to get into. But you have to choose and always work for the important stuff. Anyway, prayers and man and woman. By the way, just so you know, the whole reason for Hanukkah is because a woman instigated it, for those of you who don't know. The whole war started because Yehudit of the Hashmonaim clan went and complained to her brothers about this general, that the generals of the area, they're like the rulers over certain areas. When a woman was going to get married, the woman had to go spend the first night not at home with her husband, but with this guy. This was the law of the land. And she got to his place, and she's ready for the party that he wants to have. So she brings with her salty cheese and nice, good wine. And she feeds him the salty cheese, and he gets thirsty, and he said, asks for the wine. He drinks the wine till he falls asleep. And she takes a sword and cuts his head off, puts it in a basket, carries it over to her brothers and says, see, this is the way it's supposed to be. Why do I have to do it? Why aren't you guys doing something? And she happened to do it. It happened to happen on the same day that this final desecration of the temple happened. So, I mean, these guys were fired up. That's how it started. The anger that they had started with that, and then went over to the desecration of the temple, and then went into fighting the Greeks. Very interesting, in-depth story, by the way. But it was a woman that got things started. It's not the first time in our history that the women actually pushed the men to get into to do something. So if you're married to a woman who's pushing you to do something, it's because you're to be better or do something. It's because she knows you're better than what you think you are, and you can accomplish it. Don't cut anybody's heads off, women. Sounds kind of gory. Anyway, okay. Anybody have anything you want to bring up or say at this time, or how are we doing, Scotty, on Facebook? I haven't seen anything on Facebook, but I didn't look on if there are any comments.
No comments yet.
Okay, no comments. All right. Yeah, it's been pretty quiet the last couple of weeks, I guess, because of the time of year it's heading up to, and the way that some people they have Deal with the holidays and everything. We're going to talk about that a little bit maybe on Wednesday night, how to deal with everything that's going on during this holiday season. For most religions have a holiday right now. But appreciate you guys coming by. Remember that if you want to have private meetings once a week, once a month, on whatever, get a hold of me and we'll set it up. We'll put it on a schedule. And we look forward to helping anybody in any situation you may have. Today, I counsel some people on growing up children. So we know we can spread some knowledge in a lot of different areas. Oh, I just heard thunder. We're going to have thunder showers today. Sounds like it. That's good. That's always a blessing for us. Okay. If that's anybody else have anything? Didn't see anybody's hands come up. Didn't see. All right. Don't forget, at 11 p.m. East Coast time in the USA, you can go to Seattle Noahide Connection, Arizona Noahide Connection. You can go to come to my page or B'nai Noah Connection with Israel. Get the link. Get with Cole Younger and Tony Lamont, and there's the prayer service there and the reading of the Torah portion for the week. And there's a rabbi there, Rabbi Goldberg, I guess, comes most weeks to give the Jewish explanation of the Torah portion, how it applies to the Noahides. Join them. Scotty and Terry are going to have a new video up shortly, I understand, for, and I never remember, it's so complicated.
Sacred Odyssey Videocast, a spiritual and intellectual quest.
Thank you for that. And that, by the way, that's a good one. This is a good one for people that are still somewhere else to listen to. It's done in a very basic way. Go to their YouTube channel, subscribe to it, and you can hand out this to pastors. You can hand it out to whoever you want. It's just tell them, here's some information for you about the book of Genesis. And they'll start listening to it, hopefully, and come back with questions. And I think they're going to be very successful in this series as soon as it gets more publicized and out there more. And you can share, of course, our links with people for our Sunday and Wednesday meetings. Wednesday night, please come back. Be here 8 o'clock. Same room. So if you got the link, you got the link. Be 8 o'clock, USA and Canada, East Coast time. And if there's something you want to hear about or hear me talk about, you may want to send me a personal message and tell me, hey, I'm going to ask you this question. And then I'll have something to say about it. I won't be caught flat-footed, so to speak. So I really appreciate you all being here. I'm going to, get dressed and head off to prayer. And we'll see you on Wednesday night. God bless you all. Thank you for being here.